Even when you put everything on a silver platter, they'll say, well, there's no evidence. Where are the people who actually handle the craft in the bodies? We have them. Couldn't do anything at all to affect the surface of this object. If they were hostile, we would have had this enterprise on Earth shut down immediately. They're all over the country and all over the world to an extent. Every week we're getting 1, 2 more sites named like whistleblowers that are coming to us. Poverty would be gone in 20 years or less, and there would be no pollution within 10. So the groups are not hostile that are off planet, but they're extremely concerned about our hostility, to the point of surveilling every single nuclear facility and incident, because when a nuclear or atomic bomb is detonated, an electromagnetic pulse goes out, but attendant to that, and you'll hear this tomorrow from Dr. Zohar, there's also a scalar type of energy that is through the entangled quantum entanglement aspects in physics, which means it goes out beyond our solar system. It scrambles and disrupts extraterrestrial communication and navigation. I'll be blunt. This is why, as soon as we detonated the first atomic bomb at White Sands in 1945, there were ET craft there. Why were they at Roswell? Because we had the only atomic bomb squadron in the world, the 509th, was at Roswell Army Air Base, and later became Air Force. But at that time, it was still the U.S. Army Air Corps. So this is the history, and the reason they are concerned is that we're not only become an existential threat to us, but to all life on Earth with these weapons, but we are actually viewed as a threat out there. So everyone likes to flip this around, that there's the alien threat. My friends, if you are thousands to millions of years technologically more advanced than we were in 1945 with vacuum tubes and no integrated circuits and nothing up in space, flying around in propeller craft or maybe early jets and rockets, if they were hostile, we would have had this enterprise on Earth shut down immediately. But they have the patience of Job to have put up with this nonsense for 80 years. So in reality, humans are viewed as the aggressors. This is a real problem. And people don't want to hear this, but it's just the truth. The technology's been studied and reverse engineered, absolutely true. And the breakthroughs in energy, propulsion, communications, which you'll hear about, are phenomenal. Faster than speed of light communication systems, tracking systems, and weapon systems, but also electromagnetogravitic, so-called anti-gravity, pop term, not what it really is. It's electromagnetic field propulsion, and energy generation. So we just released the lost century, and it documents 100 years of this lost century of technology. And the importance of that can't be overemphasized, because it means that we could immediately get off oil, gas, coal, nuclear power, wind, solar, geothermal, all of it. And you would be able to have something that would sit on this podium, would run your house or your building or your factory, pulling energy out of this baseline 0-point quantum vacuum energy field, which is what ET craft are using. They're not using a rocket, for heaven's sakes. And, but that would transform the world into a paradise. Poverty would be gone in 20 years or less, and there would be no pollution within 10. They would go down, and then we could clean up the mess we've made. This is a civilizational advancement that has been withheld for 100 years by corrupt interests in collusion, mostly corporate, with government entities that are not serving the interests of the American public or humanity. Full stop. Now, these also go into that these operations have been targeting ET craft using these technology. How do you go from interstellar capability and travel, go over Roswell and crash? Well, in the UFO community, they say, well, there's a thunderstorm nearby. I assure you, if you can navigate interstellar space, you can make it through a New Mexico thunderstorm. Yeah. Right? So this gets into this very important thing that we have a document from a field agent for the FBI to J. Edgar Hoover about this crash disk that they retrieved because we had switched on a new, quote, radar system. Now, let me explain military euphemisms. A radar system can be used to paint and bounce off waves off of an aircraft to track it. It's radar, it's what you think of. But they can have embedded with them, piggybacked, an active warfare system, particularly electromagnetic warfare systems. That's what that was. It was an early scalar weapon system, and that's how those craft came down. So this has become a huge problem because if you have the national military command authorities, often left out of this, the president and the Congress, now that wasn't true in 47, it is true now, not read into or controlling this, you have a rogue group that is a threat to peace here and peace elsewhere. That has got to be reined in and put under constitutional oversight and control immediately, as in decades ago. And so these end up being crimes against the whole world. If you look at what has happened, how many people die each year from just particulate matter in the air from pollution? 5 million. It's almost the number of deaths of the Holocaust every year. And it's unnecessary because we don't need it. Now, the people who own oil fields won't like this, but after 150 years, they've had a good ride. They've made a few $1,000 trillion, have fun. They're not wanting for money. And I just want to say, I do applaud the actions of the U.S. Congress, and particularly the 16 senators, that's 1/6 of the Senate, recently wrote a letter encouraging the Pentagon to increase the pace of this. There are some people who are really leaning into this strong, like Senator Gillibrand and Marco Rubio and Senator Warner and some others. And before he left, Senator Blunt. And they're very much keen to get to the bottom of it. And luckily now, they know there's something very real here. Now, I want to take a quick trip here. In this disclosure project, Intelligence Archive, let's go to the map. What we have here is the sites, black sites, military sites, corporate sites, where we now have 145 of these that we've identified where these classified, covert, and mostly illegal projects are occurring. And they're all over the country and all over the world to an extent. Now, this is as of today. Every week, we're getting 1-2 more sites named by whistleblowers that are coming to us. We're adding more. Here's a list. Obviously, we'd be here all day to go through all of them and what's at each one. The key thing I want you to know, this entire archive has been delivered to the White House, the Senate, the Pentagon, and it has all the backup files from the whistleblowers telling who they are and where they were at these bases. Where is the northern gate for the Nevada test range, where the helo pad is, where a witness you're going to hear about later was retrieving ET craft just a few years ago, 2009. So I think this sort of information is what we call actionable intelligence for the Senate investigators, for the Pentagon investigators, and I think also the Department of Justice and FBI, because these operations are being run criminally. And if you had the leadership of this country put under oath who are in the oversight committees and the White House, they do not know this is going on. And the fact they don't is proof of the illegality of it. And this just goes on and on. Now, I just want you to know this is a work in progress. It's being added to, but every one of these sites is based on, all these black sites are based on information from whistleblowers who we have debriefed and who have written us and who have given us the information of where something is. For example, we have one from the Dugway Proving Grounds, recently surfaced, contractor for the C. Martin Corporation. He knew the Avery sector, he knew the building numbers, he knew where the underground, the DUM is, the deep underground military base is, and he knew what assets were there, including ours, the man-made UFOs, and the extraterrestrial one being studied. He also named a chief scientist who was there from the US government working on this. All that is in the Disclosure Project Intelligence Archive, all of it. It's all been handed off. So here's my message to Congress and to the White House and the Pentagon. No more excuses. You have everything you need. They have everything they need right now, I assure you. Great picture. Here's a facility most people don't know about, the Lockheed RCS Range underground entrance out in the Mojave Desert, taken by Michael Stratton, a little airplane. He was able to go there on a weekend close enough to snap this photograph. So this is where you can see they go in, they taxi, and then they go boom, underground. It's a big underground complex. People say, is this a myth? I go, no. Here's a photograph of it taken by our aerospace researcher and historian, Mr. Stratton. Next. This is a fun piece of the archive. We get things periodically. This is a apparent extraterrestrial being dissected between 1922 and 1928, according to the top medical historian in the world in terms of looking at the equipment. There's some damage on the emulsion. You can say this is a picture of a picture from the daughter, the granddaughter, I should say, of a woman who was at Los Alamos, worked on the A-bomb, and then was moved over to Roswell and was at Roswell when that event happened. She was called in to see a picture by a work colleague at Roswell, and he had this. Apparently, we're speculating here, but it appears that they had older retrieval operations going way back. And those files were brought in so that they would have some reference point for looking at and dissecting the bodies that were retrieved out of the Roswell event. So now we're trying to find other witnesses to this, but it's 100 years old. But this is just a very interesting factoid. This goes back quite some time, long before Roswell. And here I want to talk about one of the problems with what we're going to introduce next, and that's the witness list, the WIT list. That witness list is now 752 people. Some of them are direct, some are POCs to them, points of contact. And it's growing pretty much every week. We're making a call today for more courageous people like our military witnesses here to come forward. But here's what somebody wrote to me. I don't think I'll be able to give you all what you need in coming to DC. I'm a fully disabled vet, and the whole issue of Black Ops Division ability to act beyond any law, I just don't feel safe. I suffer too much as it is, etc. You can read it. Why am I sharing that? Because the 5 that are here are part of the 60, 70 we invited who are in fear of their life. And they're in fear of their pensions being taken away. So the people who are keeping this secret are thugs that are breaking every imaginable law in the United States, and they absolutely have to be put under control. So we'll just let this roll for a minute. You'll see that this witness list, we have the contact information blacked out. These names are the ones who have come forward, and we already have their testimony. All these that are named. It's about 100. It's a massive body of evidence. You can see these. We have published them. I encourage you to read. However, at about page 100, the rest are black, except the notes of what they're going to testify to. Now this file, in its entirety, this is just an Excel spreadsheet. The actual backup files with all the testimonies and all the correspondence and what these whistleblowers have told us are all in the hands of the U.S. government as of Tuesday, this past Tuesday. They have all this. Now, why is that important? Because the news media, in reporting on the recent whistleblower, said, well, this young guy didn't have any direct information from being in these facilities. Every single one of these 752 people are not people who tried to look into it but didn't get in. They were in, or they were accidentally in, or they came across it. Every one of them. There's none of them that are secondhand. Not one. And this is a very important distinction. And I think that the media and the Congress and the Pentagon need to understand this is 30 years of our work. Look, we've spent millions of dollars doing this. We're giving it for free. We just say, please, dear God, get to the bottom of it, fix it. Now, we're running out of time to fix this problem. I'll tell you, absolutely we are. And you'll hear that tomorrow, why we're out of time. Tick-tock, things don't stand still. 80 years into this charade, time's up. And we need to let it be known that these corporations and operations that are being run illegally, you are out of time also. and we will take all actions to correct that. We will. And when you look at this list, I'm going to go through a few of them just to give you a flavor of what we've gotten from some of these additional 600 and some witnesses that do not want to be named. Now, one thing I get criticized for this, well, you'll share something, but where is that person? And when I talk to the media, they're all cynical and skeptical, which is fine. That's what the media is supposed to be. But I go, no, but wait, we already have 80 of them on the record. Have you looked at that? Oh, no. See, here's the problem. Even when you put everything on a silver platter, they'll say, well, where there's no evidence, where are the people who actually handled the craft and the bodies? We have them. They've already come out. But it's really, we're an unfunded non-governmental entity. We cannot be expected to do the entire job of the United States government with their trillions of dollars. We have no staff. All of this has happened through volunteers. So at a certain point, we, the people, have to write to our representatives, your 2 senators, your House of Representative member, and the president, and say, this has been handed to you. I have the return receipt proof from the FedEx that it was received. Now, you need to go. It's time to go. You need to pursue this in the interest of the people. So, this goes on and on and on. We're only at 400 and some. Each of these little comments on the right are little quick synopses of what they were going to say. If you were to sit and read all 100 pages of this witness list, you would fall out of your chair. We don't have time to go through it all. It'd be here a week. So we can move on to the next slide. And one of the things I want to go back to is this history of secrecy. So let's get to this slide, next one. This is when everything went sideways. So just for those of you wanting to know the history of this, how do we go from during Truman and early Eisenhower, properly overseen but highly classified R&D, to the situation we're in now with rogue operations? There's a progression. You need to understand how it happened, when it happened, most importantly, why it happened. But here, I always tell people, please don't take my word for anything. I'm a retired doctor. I have never had a clearance. I've never been in the U.S. government. I've never got an Indian head nickel from a contractor or the government, although I paid a few $1 million in taxes. They can just say thank you at this point. Those of us who actually pay taxes. But I will say that you look at this gentleman, he's one of the first. There was a short interim CIA director when it was founded in 47 after Roswell. This gentleman, Admiral Roscoe Hillenkoetter, was a very early one for about 3 years. And look at what he said. It's time for the truth to come out. This was in 1961 in a letter to the New York Times that Eisenhower said, beware of the military-industrial complex, right? And he said that though through official secrecy and ridicule, many citizens are led to believe the unknown of flyings are nonsense. He says, I urge immediate congressional action. Now remember, this is 62 years ago. I urge immediate congressional action to reduce the dangers from secrecy about UFOs. He didn't say the UFOs were dangerous. That's the threat narrative that's all in the media now, and the charlatans and the whole, UAP community. In reality, he was saying the secrecy is a threat to the national security. So in my first meetings with these guys in DC 16 months ago, I said, you've been gaslit. Here's the problem. Go get a mirror and look at it. It's humans. And the secrecy around this is an existential threat to the constitutional government of the United States of America and every other country in the world that I know of that I've had contacts. And then we have this. How long has this been noted to be of such high secrecy? Look at this from 1950. A top secret memo from the Canadian government. Next. Hello. And you'll see this is top secret. It was declassified accidentally, I've learned, from the Canadian government with a tranche of other documents back, I think, in the Carter years. And in it, next, he describes the matter is the most highly classified subject in the United States government, rating higher than the H-bomb. This is an official document, not controversial. Flying saucers exist, period. Their modus operandi, meaning their technology, how they fly, how they move, is unknown, but a concentrated effort is being made by a small group headed by Dr. Vannevar Bush. Dr. Vannevar Bush headed up the Manhattan Project, just so you know. And the entire matter is considered by the United States authorities to be of tremendous significance. But look at A, of higher secrecy than the development of the hydrogen bomb. We didn't detonate the first hydrogen bomb until 1952. This is 1950. So that gives you an idea of the extreme secrecy stood up around this between 1945 and this period. And that's where things began to go sideways. Next. Next. And so all kinds of things began to happen. You're familiar with this document? It's the death warrant for Marilyn Monroe. And I got this from a man whose name I have, and he's in our witness list, from the National Security Agency vault. It's a CIA document from 1962, dated a day or two before they found her dead. And the wiretap summary basically goes into the fact that she was going to hold a press conference like this, except it'd be Marilyn Monroe, about her having had this relationship with with Jack Kennedy, the president, and what he had told her about the, quote, objects from outer space, from New Mexico from the 40s. Clear reference to what happened in the 40s. This document has been looked at by the chief document authenticator, who was right-hand to General Odom at the National Security Agency, who's been on my team. He's since passed away. He says, without me pulling this out of the vault myself, this is real. It's top secret. Now, it has not been declassified. And when he gave it to me, he sent it to me in this huge Xerox sheet. We still have the original in my archive. I said, that doesn't matter. We've already declared these projects illegal a priori. I don't care if it has a top secret stamp on it. We're releasing it. Because they cannot cite the rule of law and impose the law when they themselves are a corrupt criminal enterprise. Ask an attorney. Oh yeah, and I got a death threat for doing this. I said, oh, go away. I'm in the ER with, gang members with Tech 9s in my face. Okay, next. So this gets into a sort of a transcript of it. I'm not going to read it to you. It's in our book and on our website, but it basically describes what she was going to do. She was also calling an art dealer friend of hers, Rothberg, in New York, and Dorothy Kilgallen, who was a reporter. Kilgallen is the one who got Lord Mountbatten and the royal family interested in this, because Lord Mountbatten, as you know, had one of these objects land on his estate. And that's why the royal family, Prince Philip and Prince Charles, have always been very interested in this, and subscribed to Flying Saucer Review. It's an old periodical from the UK, excellent actually. It's Gordon Crichton's one of our witnesses. He was MI6, and he just published a great journal every quarter or month, I can't remember, but the royal family subscribed to it. Next. So here I just want to give you a quick tour de force of the corrupt alleged investigations. Now let me be clear. Project Blue Book started early on, 50s, was shut down in 1969. They had a storefront office, J. Allen Hynek, Dr. Hynek admits this. They received information. The really important cases went into a black vault somewhere. And those are the files that would be very interesting. They were never released. But that project was mainly a PR stunt to make it look like we're investigating it, endless investigations, but there's nothing there. There's nothing there behind the curtain. So it is a PR stunt. Every investigation in the history of the subject by the US government has been hijacked into a dog and pony show to gaslight the members of Congress, the president, the press, and the American people. That is a fact. 1953, the Robertson Report. This report was also done to basically shut down any further inquiries from the government. We had the Ford hearings in '68, and then one of my favorite, the Condon Report. So now you're going to pull in, you see this happening now, we're going to pull in these academics from the University of Colorado, Professor Condon, and he put a committee together under contract with the Air Force to study, do we even still need to investigate UFOs? And they concluded, oh no, you don't need to. And the fix was in. Next. or then NASA in 2022. So this is one of the problems. The Aero office put this out after this whistleblower, that we don't have any evidence that there's any extraterrestrial component to this, etc. You can read this. The problem is, I am communicating with people who have been in the skiff at Aero who have testified that in fact there are. Now, either this spokeswoman is lying to the American public or she's not being informed by the people who are doing this. But either way, this messaging, I'm saying this right now, this came out this week, needs to stop immediately. You cannot misrepresent and lie to the American public. Say no comment, but do not put out a statement that is a bold-faced lie, which we can prove is a lie. Next. Now, one of these things, these are just sort of the highlights of some of these documents we got after I briefed the director of the CIA. The debunking aim would result in reduction in public interest in flying saucers, which today evokes a strong psychological reaction. This education could be accomplished by mass media, such as television, motion pictures, and popular articles. This is this Robertson panel trying to shut down public interest in this through psychological warfare and counterintelligence in 1953. This document is many, many pages long. We have it, it's in the archive. We have tens of thousands of pages of government documents like this in the Disclosure Project Intelligence Archive. Someday I'd like to have all of it up on the internet. If somebody knows how to build an internet site and create a database for 8 terabytes of content, give me a jingle. All right, I don't know how to do that. Next. And so this is Professor Condon. I already mentioned him. He was an agent of the CIA. Next. And here we have a document where it basically is talking about they didn't want, you can read this on your own, he was an asset of the CIA and admits it here, but we can't let the public know that he is. So this was supposed to be an independent academic study. It was tainted and it was a dog and pony show, and we can prove it. We have the documents to prove it. We also have, next, here's a blow up of it. Any work performed by, to Dr. Gordon Condon in his investigation will not be identified as work accomplished by the CIA. So in other words, it's work accomplished by the CIA, but we won't identify it as such. This is clear corruption by the CIA on an internal investigation where they are banned from doing things like this in the United States. They're only to be foreign operations. And they're corrupting this study presented to the public as an academic impartial study. And here's the proof that it was corrupted from the get-go. This is an official CIA document, officially released by the CIA that we got. Next. And this goes on about, this is more documentation. Next. So, visit of Dr. Condon for this. So it goes on and on. There's all these, this is 67. The Condon report 69. So he was an operative for a few years being put in place to set up this fake study. We cannot let that happen again, my friends. We have to be watchdogs of these studies being done by Aero, NASA, all this, all the alphabet soup, because they will be corrupted this way if we don't watch out for it. Next. Here's a man, great man, one of our Disclosure Project witnesses, Dr. Robert Wood. He was the McDonnell Douglas aerospace engineer on Phantom Works. It's now part of Boeing. And when you can go to the next slide, he stated this: I wrote a letter to Condon suggesting that it might be helpful if we were to establish this group in 2 parts, and believers, disbelievers, and stuff. Basically what happened, he came in with a suitcase full of evidence because he had been sent by old man McDonnell to investigate the UFOs way back, the McDonnell Douglas founder. And Condon, when he realized he had hard evidence and cases, went to James McDonnell. Look at this. So Condon was so furious, he went to the head of McDonnell Douglas to get him fired. He threw him off the committee. So in other words, our minds are made up. Someone who had evidence, dispositive proof, was thrown off the committee. This is what's happened over and over and over again with all of these US government and academic reports. Next. Now, I just want to mention this gentleman. We have a man here who will speak a little bit later, I hope. James Goodall, renowned aerospace historian and illustrator, is here. So one of our VIP guests. But Ben Rich, head of the Lockheed Skunk Works, through the work of great work and sleuthing of Michael Schratt, we found this correspondence. Next. A friend of his wrote and said, you know, are these man-made or are they extraterrestrial? Now, this is out of their own archive. This is the man who wrote it. This is his letter. His wife, I believe, gave it to Mr. Schratt. And here's Ben Rich's reply. Next. Dear John, yes, I'm a believer in both categories. And if anything, I feel anything is possible, many of our man-made UFOs are unfunded opportunities. I mean, they'd have huge value if they were deployed for commercial, normal use for humanity. And so he acknowledges that there are both, that we have these, and he just says many of our, look at the letterhead, Lockheed Advanced Aeronautics Company. See the letterhead? So people say, is this some kind of conspiracy theory that these things exist in these aerospace giants? I go, no. The head of the Lockheed Skunk Works admitted that they have these UFOs. And some people call them ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles, because they were helped be developed from studying the extraterrestrial material. Next. So here we had this from Mr. Goodall. Next. I mentioned that already. And one of the things that is interesting, I think a week or two before he died, Mr. Goodall testified at the 20th anniversary of the Disclosure Project that he had, in fact, talked to him, and he said, the things that are out there in the desert are like beyond Star Trek and beyond, and we've already done it. Amazing, yeah. We'll be able to ask him to come up. Now I want to go through some of these witnesses not here. Why do I want to do this? Because they've given us this information. They are not comfortable yet being public, but I think it's important for you to know. Here's one of the incoming letters from this one witness I just called TB. And he was cleared across 16 to 18 of these unacknowledged special access projects with the Technical Management Office in the Pentagon and other operations in the sub-basement of the Pentagon. And also he was a CID investigator for the Pentagon. Next. And so these are some of the events that he got involved with. This is artwork from Mr. Schratt and his team. One of these crash retrieval operations in Lawton, Oklahoma. And these are illustrations based on his testimony and information he's given on some of these mishaps and downings. Here's a drawing of the shape of the object on in, and then a top view. And next. They're quite interesting aircraft. And next. These are great. I love this artwork. Here's one of the small bodies. About, some of them around 3 feet length. Now, people say, where are the whistleblowers who handle this? We have them. I've debriefed them. They need to be protected. They need to be given amnesty if there's anything in their past that's questionable, and they need to have clearly the ability to talk without losing their pensions. This man signed an 80-year non-disclosure agreement. He's a disabled veteran. He's a hero of the country, but he doesn't want to lose his pension because he was a career military and then career civilian government. And so he's just scared because he's a deep insider who was in these programs for 10 years. From 2000 up through 2010, 11, like that. So next, this is just showing one of the underground facilities he was in that monitor these sort of activities. Here's one that is being studied. There was an underground facility where one of these craft was being studied by a group of folks. A scandal happened where a 3-star general brought in a girlfriend who was an executive with Booz Allen Hamilton, who was not cleared to be in there. And this witness, TB, got involved to look at prosecuting the general for violating that security protocol. But it turned out nobody could prosecute him. He became an untouchable. He did lose a star. He went from a 3-star to a 2-star. I have the general's name. He's still living. He can be subpoenaed, and he should be. Next. And this is one of these battlefield weapons where you can put an electromagnetic device on it, which renders them completely invisible. All kinds of applications to these technologies. Next. So here's the other one I want to go. I'm going to go through these fairly quickly because in the interest of time, I want to give you a flavor of these guys that are in the archive who aren't here. That's what I'm trying to do. One thing before we move on to this one, TB, this Pentagon guy, he also had been at a facility in Orange County. We know the exact location, and underneath an office building in suburbia is a SCIF, a secure compartmented information facility and lab, where they're studying extraterrestrial material, and there are ET bodies there. We know where it is. It's actionable intelligence. A strike team can get in there and get it if they want to. We have all this information. So it's granular, specific information, actionable from firsthand, top secret people. This is the emphasis here. He also knows of a large place outside of another SCIF that had to be built into the side of a mountain outside of Seoul, South Korea, because one of these objects was downed and it was too big to move. And so they actually had to cover it up out there and then bore out a huge part of the mountain to put it there where it can be then studied in situ, meaning right there on site. And he knows the location of that. He also knows what we have developed that are on satellite systems that can target an area of space towards the ground or out that would disable all electronics so that aircraft, whether extraterrestrial or human, can just drop out of the sky. They don't have to be shot down, etc. Next. So this gentleman, we're just calling him MS. He's the Dugway gentleman I referred to earlier, recently got hold of us in the last couple of months. This is when he was there in 2009 to 2013. This is called the Ghost Building, is what it was termed, and it was very quickly put together. There was an extraterrestrial vehicle in this facility. He got to know the top scientists studying this. Again, this is not 70 years ago at Roswell or what have you. It's recent. Here's another view of it. You can see there's sort of an upside down triangular object that seems to be part of its propulsion device. This is not human. This is extraterrestrial vehicle. And here are other angles of it, drawings that he saw from various positions. He worked for the C. Martin Company as a contractor at Dugway. Most people never heard of that company, but again, they should be subject to a subpoena and to investigations. Next. And then he was also told and introduced to this deep underground facility, room for 1,000 cars to park there, but this little entrance, it goes down quite deep into the earth and big enough on the elevator to even put Air Force One. Just illustrate that there, very, very large. But apparently it goes down to an interconnected complex. He says is 1,300 square miles, which would be 30 miles by 40 something like that. Now, he didn't go in there. This is what the scientists who worked in this area said it was, but that scientist can be subpoenaed and interviewed because we have his name. Next. And then he went into a building when he was first there, and he got a badge that let him in accidentally to when he shouldn't have gotten in. It was he walks in, he sees this photograph of this strange-looking ET with a group of scientists and a picture on the wall. Next. And, oh, I thought there was one of the actual group. Oh, maybe it fell out of there. Was there another one? No? Oh, okay. There's also a drawing of this ET being dissected, and then one that's living with these group of scientists around him. And that we have multiple witnesses of that sort of event. One of the witnesses we have in our old archive was an Army intelligence guy who was at Camp Peary out here near Williamsburg, where the last surviving ET from the Roswell episode was there in a crate, in a cage with boxer shorts on. So tragic. And shortly thereafter, I understand that even extraterrestrial biological entity died. But he saw it, and he has provided testimony to that effect. He was he was Army intelligence gentleman. Contacted us right before he died. So we have that information. Next. And now this is a very important case. His initials, TE. He gave you a little background. He was recruited out of Fort Campbell to be on a special team to retrieve conventional aircraft, jets, what have you, that go down because they have classified components on them. So you had to have a top secret clearance. And so he was pulled into that. That is how they usually introduce these folks. They give them that, then they move them on to this next. So after he did some of the conventional retrievals of mishaps and accidents, he was moved into a special unit out of the Northern Nevada test range, where the nuclear weapons testing took place. And there's a helo base there, and he knows where the gate is, all the details of this. And this was recent. This was in 2005. And there was this is one of ours. You can see the rivets and the seams. Not extraterrestrial. They don't need seams. And this are rivets. I'll tell you how they're manufactured later. But this was the schematic of what he retrieved. This is a man-made, probably it's either a Raytheon or Northrop triangular anti-gravity craft. Now, he didn't know which corporation built this one, but we have witnesses here you'll hear from today who one of them was a Raytheon contact who saw those. Next. And this was later, after he did some of those initial retrievals, and we have many more events like this. Each of these witnesses could be an hour. I'm just trying to run through quickly. And this was an extraterrestrial vehicle we had stunned with an electromagnetic directional weapon, and it went down on the northern range, but it did not get damaged too bad. It was stunned. And initially what happened, they came in, the Delta Force guys were in charge of the operation. He said I was a garbage man, meaning he was just a guy to be in a hazmat suit picking up pieces. He literally says that's all I was. Sometimes these, lower ranking people are the ones who really get to come forward because they weren't in charge per se. And here's the drawing of the operation. The helicopter came in, unloaded the whole crew, Delta Force, and then his other folks. He knows the names of his colleagues, but most of them were cover names. There was an alien reproduction vehicle in the air above it. At some point, this thing started glowing and coming back alive, and this man-made ARV took off, boom, because it knew it needed to get out of there. As the chopper in the air, all personnel on the ground, just like the Russian general talking about that a nuclear weapon overheating, they just basically became frozen. Not hurt at all. An ET, two ETs actually came up to him. So we can just stay right there. And then what happened is, when it started doing this, shortly thereafter, after he had a little bit of communication with these two ETs, they were teleported instantly. The helicopters, the men, everything back to the helicopter base. Just like that. And the ETs didn't hurt a soul, but they moved them on, and they warned him that you need to immediately stop doing this. We're not going to put up with this anymore. It was a very clear message to this witness. A wonderful man. Here's the drawings of the two ETs, the male and a female, somewhat human looking, and around 5 feet tall, no external ears, etc. And this thing gets into a more complicated. All of you know about alien abductions. Here's the guys doing it. They're ours. These are special project. He was, long story short, he wanted to leave that unit after he realized what we were doing to these ET craft and that it was immoral and unwarranted, but they didn't want him out. And his father and uncle and grandfather had been involved in these projects. Often these people are familial going all the way back to World War II and before. But his uncle was a very high-ranking Navy guy, came and got him out of that 𝗪𝗓 base. And then after he got out, he thought he'd be killed. They threatened him, everything. This particular event happened where he was driving back near his home in the northern Midwest, and he was driving along. His car comes to a stop, daytime. There's one of these ARVs there in the air, man-made. And then he looks, and there's this guy at his door. His engines won't move. Everything's frozen, electromagnetically stopped. And he realizes he's going to have something very bad happen to him. So he flings his door open. He was almost paralyzed, but he had enough willpower to, boom, knock this thing onto the ground and kick the stuffing out of it, thinking it was a biological ET or something. And of course, when he opened it, take a look what's in there. Integrated circuits, fiber optics. This is a robotic with a skin, he said, looked just like skin. He's one of the, quote, gray ETs. And he describes here how they move. They're very robotic, move very specifically. And these have been used for a very long time using man-made UFOs and these creatures to commit human abductions so that the public would think we're under alien attack. It's all a psychological warfare operation, every bit of it. Next. And then we have this gentleman who was at Guam, 2009. This is a Coast Guard ship, the buoy, servicing buoys out there. And they were called in on emergency assist because of a Japanese trawler, next. And this is his letter to me describing the whole incident. His name is redacted. And this was his ship. And it turned out that in a Japanese trawler, there was a craft that was stuck in the huge fishing net. And it was an extraterrestrial vehicle. And so they were called, they actually commandeered, they didn't, but the Marine force there commandeered the Japanese trawler, civilian, and said, you're stopping right here. And they put this in. This was so heavy, it tilted, 20, 30 degrees, their ship. They thought it was going to capsize. So he actually was above board. Most of the men were forced to go beneath deck, windows blacked out. We're not allowed to see this. He actually touched it. And he said it was seamless. He took, I think it was a rock or something, tried to scratch it. You couldn't do anything at all to affect the surface of this object. Next. And now I just want to share this. So we have this man's testimony. We're going to run out of time for me to share all of it. But I know Sean Ryan, thank you, is here. This is not far from your home in Nashville. There's a black site, 160, in Tennessee, outside of Nashville, in a remote area, that is using ARVs and criminal psychological warfare operations. Oh, here it is. And if you look at this, what he's describing are these ARVs, although these were more the triangular ones, whereas you'll hear from Mr. Herrera, his was more circular, that were involved in running drugs and doing all kinds of atrocities. Now we know where this site is. We have it on a map. We have his testimony. He can be, deposed in a subpoena. He did not want to come. He almost was about to come. He just got cold feet. Often happens. Again, I've seen this so many times, and I have complete sympathy. And this is, I'm telling you, the guys that are here are absolutely courageous. So we also have the locations of these sites. Now, he was someone who had been, if you understand the MK Ultra program, there was an advanced version of it, and as a young child, he was handed off into that project, and he knows where the airstrips are. He's given us all this information. So that's also in the archive that has just gone to the White House, to the Pentagon, to the Senate, and to the House. Take this, multiply it times hundreds of people like that. Those are the people we've debriefed. Those are the people we have their name and information on. I have no subpoena power. I'm a civilian. I'm a private person. Until we stand up a civilian RICO. And here's where I'm going to bridge for a minute. Derek Garcia and some other attorneys, we now have, I think, over 50 legal professionals and attorneys that are on the Disclosure Project Legal Defense Fund. And We need to stand up major funding for that, because even though all these attorneys are pro bono, the out-of-pocket on it is going to be very, very high. I can't imagine we would need less than $1 million or so. But so far, we make things happen whether we have anything or not, frankly, due to guys like you who support the project and donate and contribute. But I think that what you need to take away from this is that these cases I've shared are a quick tour through this. But in reality, it's the teeniest tip of the iceberg of what we have. And this is name, email, cell numbers, DD-214s, site locations, operational details, etc. So the media needs to understand this is what we have. Some of those folks are here coming forward. But the Congress, the Department of Justice, and the Pentagon investigations need to then start doing their job on behalf of the American people and for humanity.